This is a scene from The Amazing Spider-Man. This is from Marvel's Luke Cage. And this is a scene from Joker. Notice something similar? They're all shot in the exact same place. The 12th Avenue Underpass in Harlem.
When you stand underneath Riverside Drive, I mean, it is like the classic abandoned New York location that everybody always wants.
The Underpass is known for its viaduct, an arching structure with a grandeur filmmakers are drawn to.
It gets a lot of play because it is just a really visually captivating space. It gives this basically cascading overhang of just metalwork.
This is just one of several New York filming locations you see pop up again and again in shows and movies. We spoke with 5 location scouts to find out why these spots are in such high demand. If you look closely at the prison scenes in a bunch of New York movies, you'll see these were all filmed at Arthur Kill Correctional Facility. This decommissioned prison in Staten Island has everything you could ever need for a jail or prison scene, from the barbed wire and guard tower in front to real cells inside. It also comes with a lot of space, with 70 acres of grounds and these long stretches of hallway. That helps for choreographing action sequences.
It's that kind of facility, and there aren't that many, that lends itself to having these really long, unbroken takes, like Daredevil Season 3, 12 or 13 minutes uncut, just moving through the entire space, down the hallways, past the cells, out to the front door.
The location is surprisingly versatile.
Multiple cell blocks can look like different prisons if you didn't want to just be at one.
There are sections that could work as a hospital, and it's great because let's say you have to marry 2 locations together and those scenes don't fill a full day, you can combine them into one day and film it there, for example.
The facility's giant parking lot was even dressed up as Afghanistan for the code. Dramatic mystery scenes, villain face-offs, and wild car stunts have all used this very backdrop, the Brooklyn Navy Yard, a vestige of industrial New York. Brooklyn once had a busy industrial waterfront, but over the past few decades, high-rise apartment complexes and office buildings have moved in and turned the former manufacturing hub much more residential. That's why scouts return again and again to this shipyard, where 70,000 people once worked before it closed down in 1966. When everything is emptied out, the abandoned docks and hulking warehouses can create an ominous look. Exactly what crime shows are after.
You want that, really industrial, or, oh no, somebody's getting murdered on the docks at night. Great place to go to.
Bodies have been dumped at this dry dock in multiple shows. The amount of open space makes it possible to execute wild stunts, like when Daredevil blew up a boat on the docks.
The end of the first John Wick movie, and there was a car chase, and then a car crashed into this dry dock, dropped into it.
Many filmmakers focus on the grit of the city, but some scenes call for a more buttoned-up New York setting, like this one that pops up again and again in scenes involving business or government meetings. Manhattan has plenty of office spaces, but many are on extremely high floors, which means the lighting very much depends on the sky. Rather than relying on natural light from the windows, the filmmakers need to control the lighting.
Then you can basically shoot it any which way you want and have it look always the same.
But the higher the office spaces are, the more difficult to get lights into. That's what makes this spot prime. It's an office on the 3rd floor of the Brooklyn Public Library with big windows that crews can pass lights through. And because it's on a reachable floor, they can do it without getting a big condor lift involved. The office also has a versatile mid-century design that can work across many decades, from modern business dramas like Billions to period pieces like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. A lot of the most famous subway scenes are shot at one specific station, Hoyt-Schermerhorn. The reason this spot is so popular? Well, filming authentic subway scenes comes with huge challenges.
Sometimes, you're at the whim of the MTA and things can change. We had that happen for In the Heights. They had to reroute their trash trains, and essentially their trash trains had to come through our set.
Crews are less likely to run into these logistical problems if they film at tracks that are no longer in use, like the one at Hoyt-Schermerhorn. It's a working station, but with one deactivated platform among 3 active ones.
It's a place where we know we can film during regular business hours.
Signage can turn it into basically any other subway stop, like in this scene from Coming to America. When Lisa enters the station, it's labeled as Van Wyck Boulevard, but if you look closely, you'll see it's actually Hoyt. The giveaway is those blue and yellow tiles with a circled L in the middle, remnants of what was once one of Brooklyn's biggest department stores, Loser's, which stood where Hoyt does today. Then when Lisa exits the train, the station's labeled Sutphin, but this was also filmed at Hoyt. Recognize this bar? It's appeared in everything from TV shows like Gotham to movies like The Kitchen. For scenes set in dive bars and shadowy back rooms, directors like Martin Scorsese often want the real deal. Brooklyn's Irish Haven has kept its tile floors and wood paneling mostly unchanged since 1964, when it was a favorite spot for iron workers to unwind after work. There's a pool table, dartboard, and jukebox.
It has also just this great seasoned New York look to it. You don't have to change too much when you go there.
The no-frills exterior and dimly lit interior are well suited to gritty settings like Gotham. And the classically divey setting can stand in for other cities too, not just New York. The bar and pool table are famous for these scenes in the Boston set The Departed. When you see New York in a movie, you might see a scene like this. Or this. A dark, seedy alleyway filled with graffiti, shuttered apartment windows, and old fire escapes. But in reality, New York doesn't really have alleyways, which means dozens of famous scenes have been filmed in this exact spot to get that gritty look. One reason so many scripts call for New York scenes to take place in alleys is, well, Hollywood.
The writing for most projects takes place in LA.
When you go to LA, there's alleys everywhere.
New York was designed according to the grid system, with little to no space for alleys.
The real estate is so valuable that we just didn't leave space for it.
If they're envisioning LA alleys, probably not going to find it. But there are other types of alleys that are smaller and tighter.
Like Cortland Alley, which might be the most used filming location in all of Manhattan.
That is an alley that gives you just about everything. It's fire escapes, it's graffiti.
Many of the apartment windows have these big, decades-old shutters, which adds to the alley's aesthetic. Crews can put lights inside the windows of the apartments above.
I've paid people in the same apartment buildings for lighting positions, looking in the same exact spots that, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles shot in as well.
The location's use goes beyond just gritty scenes. Take this wholesome scene in Annie, which Eric worked on. The team used Cortland Alley to create a path for this chase sequence, adding trash and boxes as obstacles. Little nooks in the alleyway served as spots for the dog trainers to hide during filming. Since Cortland Alley is owned by the city, it's cheaper to film there.
As it's one of the very few actual public alleys, it gets used all the time.
So much that sometimes it's put in what's called the hot zone.
In New York City, when something's been filmed too much and the residents are unhappy with the impact it has, the mayor's office will put something on the hot zone. And that means that there's just sort of a moratorium on filming until they take it off there.
Cortland Alley has stayed looking more or less the same for decades. But in much of New York, things are always changing. These steps in Joker, they were actually the director's second choice. Todd Phillips initially requested this menacing set of stairs from American Gangster.
And when I went to go visit it, it had gotten a whole makeover, brand new concrete, little cute trees. It had been power washed of all of its graffiti and kind of grit.
After visiting 25 to 30 different step streets, Aaron tracked down this one, which had exactly what they were looking for. It brought drama.
In terms of the length and steepness of the stairs, kind of confined and narrow, it hit all the marks, and it had that great view just off from the top looking into the city that really worked for us as well.
The spot became instantly iconic, showing that while the face of the city is always changing, New York will always be a great place to shoot movies.